I will just mention at this point before I go any further, because it may be a bit distracting. I do have a neurological movement disorder, and it affects the muscles in my body, primarily in my neck, and it causes twitches and things. So if you do notice my head drifting and twitching, moving about, it's not because I'm smoking crack cocaine or injecting meth. It's because of that condition, just so you know. I've just come out here into one of the very few remaining pieces of countryside near where I live to do a test of a video blog, which is something I'm not really used to doing. But I wanted to push myself outside my comfort zone and try it. Not just to do that, but also because I would like to engage with more viewers, and if I don't have viewers, I can't engage with them. And viewers don't seem to be attracted to audio-only vlogs as much as video vlogs. So this is just a test, an experiment. I'm not sure if I'll post it, but we'll see. I don't have anything particular in mind to talk about, but in some ways I think that's a good thing, because it encourages spontaneity, it encourages connecting with the present moment, and I'd like to learn how to channel energies and inspiration from my higher self, or wherever people channel things from. And you won't strengthen that muscle if you're continually writing a script and reading from a teleprompter or a notepad. I'll briefly show you where I am. As you can see, it's a very beautiful spot, but it's also a precarious spot, because beneath here is clay, and periodically it slumps and great big swathes of the coast drop away into the sea. And so this footpath has been closed off. I had to come through barriers to get to this point. And it's a shame, because it's the most beautiful stretch of the place where I live, and it's falling away into the sea at quite a rapid rate. But on the other hand, I have this whole place to myself, and it's so beautiful and so peaceful. Normally there would be dog walkers and backpackers and ramblers coming back and forth, but now no one. So it's got that going for it. One thing I will talk about is I'm going to try to create the kind of media that I like to consume. And one of the things I really love, I find entertaining and compelling and reassuring, is when I find YouTubers, vloggers who are sensitive and they talk about the kind of psycho-spiritual weather that they're experiencing personally at that point in time, at that point in the world. And so I'm going to do that. When others are having similar experiences to yourself, it can be deeply reassuring to know that you're not the only one feeling those feelings, thinking those thoughts. And so I will say that personally I've been experiencing great waves of emotion, and I don't know whether they're coming from outside myself and I'm picking up on them, or if they're being generated within myself, but they're there. There will be depression at times, there will be restlessness at times, there will be a sense of peace at times, and acceptance. And I'm not sure whether the best strategy is to try to change what I consider to be unpleasant feelings and thoughts, to be proactive and to try and counteract what I don't like feeling and thinking, or to take another approach and to just accept them and feel them and think them and allow them to kind of pass through me. But life is an ongoing lesson, and so I'll hopefully figure it out along the way. I will mention one thing, which is a global overview of the world right now. It's easy to look at it and see what appears to be a deterioration, I think, in terms of things like political corruption, in terms of the media that's coming out of the mainstream media right now, and in terms of the design and build quality of the products that are available to us. They seem to be expensive and poorly made and designed, and they seem to break very quickly and be impossible to repair, so we have to throw them away and they end up in landfill and we have to buy new ones. But I'm wondering if maybe it's not as ugly as it seems, because I think of the analogy of a body with an infection deep inside itself. One of the processes of healing is for the infection to move from the core to the surface, and it might appear as boils, for example, as a rash. And at that point it looks very ugly and it's uncomfortable and it's itchy, but it's moved from the deep core of the body to the surface of the body, and perhaps the corruption, the past, whatever, can then be expelled, purged from the body. But while it's on the surface, it looks terrible. And I think that's what we're seeing. The world is going through a purging. Things that were deeply buried once upon a time are now visible to the light of our conscious awareness, to the light of our humans upon the surface of this planet. And people are running around worrying and wondering how to combat it and fight it. And they're not stepping back and observing and contemplating and remaining in a peaceful state. I think things would be more concerning if we never got to see or hear about the corruption, the breaking down of our corporations, the poor manufacturing quality of things like electric cars, where I saw a program recently where not only are batteries exploding, but when an electric car crashes, the occupants weren't able to open the doors because they were battery-operated door openers and the battery had caught fire. And the emergency services couldn't open the doors from the outside because the handles were flush. And again, they were battery-operated and the battery that powered them had been destroyed. And people died as a result of poor design in these products. And now that all of this poor design, political corruption, horrible TV shows, music and movies that are full of agenda and politics and trying to ram messages down your throat and kind of indoctrinate people, I think people can now see all that corruption on the surface, and that could be a very good thing, because now we can see it, understand it, think about it, feel it, and begin to move beyond it. Begin to create the antidote to it. Begin to step into our authenticity, to find our own voice and become the new media, design new products, learn how to interact with the people in our neighborhood and communicate with them, and step away from kind of top-down control hierarchies and step into a grassroots, bottom-up kind of philosophy. So things are perhaps not as dark as they seem. In fact, I think they might be quite bright now, because we're at that turning point. We've bottomed out. We're not going to go any lower, because if we do, I think we'll destroy everything. We'll destroy ourselves. So it's either annihilation or learn and begin to evolve and change and create the new earth, as it's sometimes referred to, the world that we would like to live in, and at the same time become the best version of ourselves, the person we would really like to be. And that means stepping away from being a consumer primarily into becoming a creator, going through that portal, stepping through that veil or that transition, and taking responsibility and taking power back to ourselves, and then channeling it in a much more positive way. One of the potential side effects of that is that we don't get the little dopamine hits continually from our social media that we're used to having. And I saw an interview with a doctor who'd written a book on the subject, and she said the symptoms of stepping away from social media and those little dopamine hits, and television as well, and computer games, is exactly the same as depression. So part of the process of stepping away from being a consumer and becoming a creator involves going through a tunnel of depression, of withdrawal symptoms, to become clean, to become detoxed from those constant little trickle of dopamine. And then once we do, I think we will get the dopamine back again, and perhaps in bigger, more meaningful doses, because when you achieve something, you get the dopamine. And I think you get a more profound sense of accomplishment, and you get inner growth. You're doing inner work, you're going on a journey of personal development. And as you achieve more and more and more and grow more and more, step further outside your comfort zone, then you get a healthier dopamine fix. And I think that's the light at the end of the tunnel. So that's a process I'm going on, and I encourage anyone who watches this to go on as well, to see that light at the end of the tunnel and to go through this journey of self-discovery, self-development, and see where it leads. See if we can't become the best version of ourselves and create a little piece of the new earth at the same time. And the last thing I'll say is, if there is a God, the source of all things, whatever you want to call it, cosmic consciousness, the unknowable nothingness from which everything comes and everything will return, I don't think it sees evil as bad and goodness as good. I think it sees those principles as polarities from which a pendulum swings, and that enables change to occur. And change allows evolution to occur, and novelty, and chaos and randomness, and order and patterns to emerge. It's the antithesis of stagnation, having these two opposing forces that allow the pendulum to swing and change to occur. So perhaps that's something that we could consider as well. Not being afraid of the darkness, of what people call evil or corruption or badness. Accepting it as a polarity, and you don't have to jump on board with it. You don't have to go in that direction. You just maybe would be better off not being afraid of it, not trying to fight it, but observing it, understanding it, thinking about it, feeling about it, and dispelling any emotions that we don't like, any thoughts that we don't like, in terms of anxiety, stress, fear, and trying to find that center point, that equilibrium, so that our emotions don't become a roller coaster where we get swept up in everything that's going on around us and reactive. We stop being self-orientated, we stop being self-actualized when we're totally lost in reaction to everything that's going on around us. So I think that's my final thought, and I think I'll wrap up this experiment here. I don't know where I'll be going from here, what I'll be doing, what I'll be thinking tomorrow, but I'm going to continue this journey and take this camera along with me and document it and see what happens. I love mysteries, I love adventures, and I'm embarking on one right now. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.